So this is our second RPA webinar. This is the introduction to the development tools that we would use in an RPA implementation. My name is Janice Stone, and I'm a senior business consultant with Nitco. We also have Praneeth Podaturi, who's one of our senior RPA developers, and he'll be presenting the actual development piece of this session. The objectives for this meeting is to make you aware of Nitco and what we have to offer, as well as to help you understand the UiPath development tools, and specifically how the Studio tool can be used to develop a simple automation. So this slide shows the UiPath RPA Implementation Approach, and each of these steps would be done for each automation process that you intend to roll out for your organization. So at the front end, we have infrastructure. So if you're on-prem and you're doing your first implementation, this is going to be where you set up the software installation and set up your environments for production test development. For later implementations, you would need to just make sure you have the necessary upgrades and patches and things like that. If you're using the cloud version, pretty much the infrastructure piece is done for you by UiPath. We then have the process identification area. This is where process mining and task mining tools could help capture data from the user and system to figure out, what your automation possibilities are. You also have Automation Hub. So any of those ideas are then going to be put into the Automation Hub, which is going to help you categorize and prioritize those ideas. And then we come to the process assessment and redesign phase. This is where you figure out the complexity of the automation and the original ROI estimate. So it's going to help you perform these tasks using built-in algorithms. The next step is your process documentation. This is where the task capture tool can help you, because it helps you create those process maps for your as-is and to-be processes. And then it also provides a template to build that process design document. And it would include those maps as well as the detailed steps and any associated analytics on those. Once that process design document is done, it's handed over to the developers, and that's when they are then going to produce their solution design document. And this solution design step is also where you're going to identify your test cases, because you want to make sure your test cases are identified prior to development. And this is also, if you have any audit, security, or SOX reviews, they should take place here to make sure that the developers take into account any concerns. The next phase is the meat of the process. That's where your actual development work occurs. And by the end of this, your solution design document would be updated with any development specifications. This is also where you will flesh out your deployment plan. Testing is the 7th of the 8 steps. And this one is fairly critical because you need to make sure that your stuff is working before you go to production. There's going to be various iterations from unit testing done by the developer all the way to user acceptance testing, which is done by the end user and provides their comfort level for the automation to be implemented. You want to make sure that any test failures are addressed immediately in the phase in which they're identified, because the cost of the fix is going to increase as the phase as you move through the test cycles. So, for instance, a bug that's found during UAT is going to be much more costly to fix than one that's found by the developer during unit testing, and that's just because of all the iteration that have to occur. That's one reason why it's important to have the full complement of your test cases identified before you even go into development, because we want to make sure that the developers understand the errors that are expected and the testing that's going to be performed, because it's best, again, to find them during development than when you're actually putting the users to work. Following the approval of the user acceptance testing, you would get your stakeholders together and make that go, no-go decision and get the sign-off to move to production. For Nitco, we've added an 8th step. It's really a Nitco hypercare, not a UiPath hypercare. And this is a complementary hypercare step. It's 2 weeks of monitoring the solution following that go-live implementation. We believe in the quality of our product and service, and we would just want to make sure that the client is fully satisfied with the end result we provide. And now Praneeth is going to take over. He's going to discuss the developer side of the tools that are provided by UiPath.
Thanks, Janice. Hi, good morning all. So I'm Praneeth Podaturi. I'm working with Nitco as a senior developer. So today I'm going to discuss about the main components of the UiPath and what are the use cases, and I'm going to do a live demo of a simple process. To get started with the components of the UiPath, so there are three main components like UiPath Studio, UiPath Orchestrator, and the robots. So UiPath Studio is the one which a developer uses for designing their workflows and modeling their workflows and debugging and to enhance whatever the automation has been identified. So UiPath Studio in general is like a developer IDE where you can just simply drag and drop the activities, let's say for even reading a PDF or reading a text file or Excel file or opening a website or any other desktop application. So it is pre-built with a lot of predefined activities where you can just go into the packages and download whatever the package you need and use them into your workflow. On the whole, UiPath Studio integrates with SAP, it integrates with Oracle, and also it has a integration with Outlook, Microsoft Office. So it is pre-built with at least 300 plus packages. So UiPath Orchestrator is the one which manages all of your processes or jobs in a centralized location. So it is a web application where it has a multiple tabs where you can see the insights of the process and you can analyze how a process is performing over the months, and it gives you a lot of insights where you can control and monitor all of your processes and you can schedule too. And there is also a unique feature which only UiPath provides, like a queue system, where you can queue your transactions into the orchestrator so that whatever the robots are available in the environment can pick up and do the process as is. Coming to the UiPath robots. So UiPath robots are in general like an executor of your UiPath workflow. So whatever you have developed in your UiPath Studio are deployed into the orchestrator, but the orchestrator, when you hit the start or run button from the orchestrator remotely, UiPath robot takes over and it executes exact workflow in a virtual machine or in your laptop or in any kind of server. So this can be achieved remotely. UiPath Orchestrator is the centralized location where it stores all of your processes, and a robot is the executor. Coming into the automation scenarios, we have attended automation, fully unattended automation, and a hybrid automation. Let's take an example of attended automation, where you have a use case where your process needs to interact with a specific user and get the input from the user and then perform some activities. There is a use case where there is a limitation, you cannot store credentials in any other third party applications, so you have to ask for credentials to the user. So you can design that flow inside the studio, and then you can ask for those credentials to the specific user. When coming to the unattended, this doesn't need any human interaction, it's totally automated, and you cannot even see what's happening inside the workflow, because these are remotely run on virtual machines. So let's say you have a process where you have to take a lot of information, a lot of static or dynamic information from any website, and put it into the Excel sheets and do a manipulation, then upload it to your SAP. So these are like three different processes where which is involving a web application, a desktop application, and a Microsoft Office application. So unattended process gives you that ability to connect or integrate all these automations together, where you can build a workflow for logging into the website and then downloading the data and manipulate the data inside an Excel and upload the same data into an SAP or any ERP application. Hybrid is a process where these processes are kicked off, these processes are scheduled, and they run on specific days on whatever the calendar you provide. They provide insights, and they can run on multiple robots. Let's say if you have a use case of invoice processing and now you have a thousand invoices to be processed in a single day, You can achieve this by unattended automation, but if you want to scale it and you want to achieve a high performance, you can allocate this job to 10 different robots on 10 different servers. It will do the same job. So these are three different kinds of automations where UiPath is very well equipped with all of the packages.